pleasure to welcome you all to the Moderator Institute of Philosophy and Creative Technology. Today we are gathered here to celebrate the art of writing and the power of words. I am honored to be your master of ceremony for this morning. Before we start our activity this morning, let's have a silence for asking the God's blessing. Amen. A developed and good country is a country supported by quality human resources, and the quality researches, of course, supported by a good reading and writing culture. Thanks to Ubud Writers and Readers Festival, that collaborations with Flores Writer Festival in Satelit program, that is a very good project. The goal of this activity is to build and manage a network of literary communities throughout Indonesia, so that both writers and readers can be brought together in this moment and find inspiration to build their reading and writing spirit. The presence of this program will be a tool that can help us improve our writing and reading abilities. Thus, writers and readers can be smart and critical in facing the reality of an increasingly challenging world. Okay, next, I will explain of our schedule today. First of all, we will heard the introductions from the Flores Writer Festival, and also continued by the introductions from the Ubud Writer and Readers Festivals. Okay, for the chance I give for the first person from the delegations of Flores Writer Festivals. Time is yours.
Terima kasih, Mariano. Selamat pagi, Pater Kaprodi Filsafat dari kewirausahaan. Belum apa-apa, susah lah. Ya, juga kepada Louise, Dita, Kak Erlyn, dan teman-teman mahasiswa sekalian, saya akan berbicara dalam bahasa Indonesia, dan Mariano yang baik hati akan membantu menerjemahkannya ya. Saya mungkin singkat saja tentang Flores Writer Festival. Kami memprakarsai Flores Writer Festival di tahun 2020, akhir tahun 2020. Kami ini adalah Yayasan Klub Buku Petra yang saat ini berada di Ruteng, Kabupaten Manggarai, Provinsi Nusa Tenggara Timur. Inisiatif ini muncul karena juga membayangkan bahwa di NTT kita sama sekali belum ada ruang bagi literasi maupun sastra untuk bertemu dan berdialog. Kita punya banyak sekali penulis di NTT. We have a lot of writer from East Nusa Tenggara, tapi semuanya single factor. Mereka dengan ruang sunyinya masing-masing melakukan aktivitas membaca dan menulis dan menghasilkan karya, tapi tidak pernah punya kesempatan untuk membagikan itu. Lalu kemudian dikenal, tiba-tiba dikenal, terkenal dan populer di luar, bukan di NTT. Nah, kami membayangkan bahwa bagaimana kalau mereka sendiri bisa dikenal oleh teman-teman, keluarga, orang-orang terdekat maupun siapa saja yang ada di Nusa Tenggara Timur, lalu semangat untuk menghasilkan karya itu menjalar ke semua orang yang ada di NTT dulu ya. Kita berpikir tentang Nusa Tenggara Timur dulu sebelum berpikir keluar. Begitu kurang lebih sampai akhirnya di 2021 kami menyelenggarakan FWF yang pertama di Ruteng, dan tiba-tiba cukup ambisius membayangkan bahwa festival ini akan berkeliling di Pulau Flores karena namanya Flores Writer Festival. Jadi tahun yang kedua dilaksanakan di ND, dan tahun yang ketiga akan dilaksanakan di Maumere. Tahun ini bulan depan tanggal 8 sampai 10 November. Dan hari ini adalah salah satu dari event pra-festival yang kami beruntung sekali karena Ubud Writers and Readers Festival berkenan mengajak kami bekerja sama menyelenggarakan kegiatan ini dan menghadirkan Louise di sini bersama kita untuk membagikan pengalamannya dalam kepenulisan. Jadi terima kasih kepada Louise, kepada Kadita, kepada Ubud Writers and Readers Festival yang sudah berkenan hadir hari ini di auditorium IFTK Ledalero. Mungkin itu saja dari saya teman-teman. Selamat berdiskusi.
Thank you for Sister Maria already give an introductions from Flores Writer Festival. Overall, Sister Maria talked about that this activity was initiated by the Petra Ruteng Book Club's foundations. This festival was actually started in 2021 in Ruteng. The focus actually of this festival is to invite all the writers from all of the Flores to improve their self. So with this festival, they can be known as a persons not only outside the country, the Flores, but also in their own place. So these festivals begin at 2021 at Ruteng, then at last year, 2022, in Ende, and this year in Maumere, precisely on November 8 until 10, 2023. It is hoped that this festival can become a place for a dialogue and sharing for all of the participants, such as an environmental activists, academics, and also the governments. This year's Flores Writer Festivals collaborations with Ubud Writer and Reader Festivals on a Satelit project. And also, they would like to thank to the institutions of philosophy and technology creative Ledalero who already supported this activity in this morning. And the next, let's hear the introductions from the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival. Time is yours.
I like how official the podium makes me looks like. Okay, hello everyone. I'm head of the entrepreneurship program study of the Flores Writers Festival team and also our esteemed panelists, Louise and Erlyn. Good morning, my name is Dita. I'm in the international programming team and I'm very excited to be representing the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival and bringing along Louise with me and his team, UK author. This is our first time ever in Maumere, and so it is a new experience that we both very, very ecstatic to be part of. Talking about the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival itself, it is an annual literary and cultural celebrations held in Ubud. The first time we held it in 2003 after the Bali bombings, and this year we celebrated a huge milestone. We celebrated our 20-year anniversary. Woo! It is a very exciting and a great milestone for us to have. And so we brought more than 200 authors, journalists, thinkers, and actors from all over the world to descend in Ubud last week. And actually 2 days ago, we just wrapped up our festival in Ubud, but the celebration did not just end in Ubud. We continued in 3 cities, Mataram, Jambi, and of course Maumere, in a program we called Satelit event, which is a regular event that we held every year along with the festival in Ubud. So our goal for the satellite events is to disperse international literature, not just in Ubud, but all over Indonesia, connecting prominent international literary influences and figures with the local communities in the area, and allowing Indonesian readers who cannot attend the festival in Ubud to still hear and meet the international literary voices. And We're hoping through these collaborated efforts, we can make an impact to improve literary and cultural connectedness. And therefore, a huge thank you and gratitude to our collaborator, Flores Writers Festival, for helping us organizing this and making this possible. And so, alas, I don't want to make this too long. I hope all of you guys will enjoy the session today. And please don't be shy to ask any questions and share your thoughts. And hopefully, I will see all of you next year in Ubud for the 2024 Ubud Writers Festival. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for the delegations of Ubud Writers and Readers Festival. We hope that we all can participate in actively for this collaboration program, especially in Satelit event. Now let's begin to the next part. Let's hear the opening speech from our delegations of the Louise Institute of Philosophy and Creative Technology, which is Dr. Louise Doughty. This time is yours.
So good morning, everybody. Yeah. I am very glad and very grateful to be here to present and take part in this big or special event. My name is Father Louise Doughty, and I am the Dean of the Entrepreneurship Study Program here in ISTFK Ledellero. It is my great pleasure on behalf of the Rector of IFTK Ledellero, Father Dr. Otto Gusti, to welcome you all to our campus and this special event. It is surely an honor to host such an insightful event that brings positive impacts to our students as well as to our society. We also would like to extend our warm welcome to our distinguished guest, especially Louise Doughty, and Ibu Dita, to Maumere and to our campus here in ISTFK Ledellero in Bariklau. This is the new and the second campus. We have another one in Ledellero. We also would like to thank the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival and Flores Writers Festival 2023 for making this program possible. As one of the oldest higher institutions in Flores, East Nusa Tenggara Timur, IFTK has a strong commitment to provide better education that go together with the millennials' needs. Not only for today's challenges, but most importantly, to prepare for the bonus demography 2045. Therefore, this occasion positively support it. So sincerely, thank you so much. If I may quote what Pramudia Anantatur wrote, as also was quoted in Louise Doughty's The Black Water. Working in the fields, we wore out our heads quickly. He might address working on social issues, promoting awareness of justice, spreading positive attitude towards humanity is a never-ending endeavor. But yet, anyone can participate through so many aspects of life to bring the betterment come to real actions. Working on these fields through art, writing, literature works is touching people's heart and leading to prioritize humanity. It is exhausting sometimes, but worth it. Thus, we hope that today's session ignites motivation on learning through, learning by, and learning with art, especially writing. As the award-winning novelist, Louise's masterpiece had inspired the world. Having her with us, especially today in this room, in the conversation on mastering the art of writing definitely is a precious chance to learn from her works and her precious experiences and to improve ourselves. I hope everyone in this room, as well as those who participate in the live streaming, could make the most of this event. I would like to encourage you all, especially young people present here in room and in the live streaming, quoting the following Latin proverb: verba volant, scripta manent. Translated, spoken words fly away, written words remain. So may our written words will remain. I would like especially thanks and give gratitude, my gratitude to all those who work together, cooperate to organize and realize this special event, and especially to Mrs. Erlyn. Thank you. Finally, allow me officially open today's event and hope everyone is having the best learning and the best sharing experience with Louise. Thank you.
Let us thank you for Father Petrus Dori, who already gave his opening speech and opening our event today. So now, let us get to the main event. So today, we will have a discussions as on the theme, Mastering the Art of Writing in Conversations with Louise Doughty. These discussions will be moderated by Miss Erlyn Lasar. So now, let us welcome Miss Erlyn Lasar to lead our conversation today. And from now on, I give the chance to you, Miss Erlyn.
Thank you so much. Good morning for everyone. So my name is Erlyn, for those who haven't already known me. And I'm really pleased to introduce you. We have a special guest today, Louise Doughty. Allow me to read briefly about your CV so the students and audience can know. So Louise Doughty is a British award-winning novelist. Thank you. She's the author of 10 novels, including Platform 7, recently filmed for ITV, Blackwater, a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, the bestseller Apple Tree Yard, adapted for BBC One. If you can also watch And Whatever You Love, nominated for the Costa Novel Award and the Women's Prize for Fiction. She has been nominated for many other prizes, including the Sunday Times Short Story Prize and the CWA Silver Dagger, along with creating and writing the hit BBC drama Crossfire. Her works has been translated into 30 languages, and her latest novel, A Bird in Winter, which matching her outfits. And then not only that, Louise Doughty also wrote a column entitled How to Write a Novel. So what we are going to have this today, to have a conversation with her, having her sharing her works and experiences in writing, which I believe will be impactful to our journey of learning through writing. So Louise, it's been an honor for us to have you here with us for the next maybe half an hour. We're going to have a conversation on mastering art of writing, but feel free to share about your works and also your experiences. And then later on, I will open the question and answer session, so the audience is welcome to post a question and to learn, to maximize your learning through our session. Okay, so once again, good morning, Louise. Thank you. Okay, is that okay?
Hello, yes,
okay,
that's working.
Good. So welcome again to Maumere. My first question will be, what brought you to writing? So what excites you to be a novelist?
Well, when I was small, I grew up in a very small town in the UK. There was nothing to do except read books and make up stories.
I see. Okay.
And when there's nothing to do, you have to live in the world of your imagination. So I would tell my parents I was going to play with the other children, and I would go out with a book in my pocket, and I would hide, and I would read. I was quite a strange child.
I see. So you started with the very early childhood, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed that in one of your interview back in 2012, like 9 to 10 years ago, you stated that sometimes a writer didn't realize that reading has that big impact to how you have the ability to write. So how would you share your relationship with reading that have the impact on your writing skills, and then also now it's your masterpiece in writing?
If you want to be a writer, then reading is everything. Because when you read, you learn the language. And if you want to write novels, if you want to write fiction, you have to read fiction to learn the language of fiction. I also believe that reading novels is incredibly important for human understanding. When you read a novel, you get to walk in somebody else's shoes. So you read a novel about a child in Norway or a street cleaner in America, and you get to know their thoughts and feelings. And I do believe that novels, along with other artistic activities, are about our common humanity, and they're about the things that we have in common, and that's why they're so important.
Okay, if I may translate ya, jadi Louise menggarisbawahi bahwa membaca adalah sesuatu yang sangat penting untuk memampukan kita seorang penulis untuk bisa menarasikan itu. Tapi membaca novel, dia menekankan bahwa ketika kita membaca novel, kita menempatkan diri kita di posisi penulis dan bisa melihat sesuatu dengan lebih luas, which is very inspiring. So when we may come to the craft itself, the process of you crafting your novel, your writing, what elements of storytelling do you consider crucial in writing in a novel?
The most important thing about writing a novel is always character. So it's about making your reader believe that the person on the page is real. And, in our brains, we know it's just words on the page. But when you are absorbed in a novel, you want to believe it's really happening. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think that's really true, because whenever we write a novel and then we feel that this character is really related to me in some sense, right? And I can imagine but we are curious about the process. I mean, it's not easy to find it. It's not like in a minute you can found the character, and then you can decide, okay, this is going to be my character. But how about the process before you come to the decision of building up your character in a novel?
For me, characters come as a visual image.
I see.
I have a picture in my head.
Okay.
So with A Bird in Winter, the new book, I had a picture came into my head of a woman in an office block in Birmingham in the UK. And I knew that she was in a meeting with colleagues and rising from her chair and thinking it's no more than 30 paces to the lift. I knew that she had realized she had to get out of the building fast. That was it. I didn't know who she was or what was happening, but I wrote that scene, and then I had to write the novel to explain what was happening to myself.
I see. So it's basically about your imagination, and then you have the touch to move on with the character. I also, it's interesting to talk about also the character you build up in the apple tree yard, about the women who is in the 30s to 60s. And I really found that you're so powerful in building up the character. So if I may have the question, do you have some ritual or habit in the process of writing in a novel?
Coffee.
Coffee. So you are coming to the right place. Yeah.
Coffee is very important.
Okay.
I get up in the morning and I have my laptop and I open it, and the first coffee of the day is really important. Sometimes I go to cafes at home because I have a family, and if they're around annoying me, I can't write. If the house is empty, I might stay at home. But sometimes I'll go for a walk, I'll think about the book, I will sit down. And I have local cafes where they don't bring the menu. I open my laptop, they just silently bring the coffee and they put it down because they know me. So, yeah. And mornings are my best time. I'm a morning writer. Afternoons are for sleeping, I think, for having a nap.
Okay,
so
it's really interesting, and because I believe students here, or maybe we have the novelist Father Freddy, every writer has the ritual and habits, right? And then what Louise has shared can be an inspiration for you too. Sometimes you'll be like, I have something in my mind, but I don't know how to start. Right? And then maybe having a ritual and a habit will be okay. I'm still curious about the character development, Louise. How do you approach the character development? Which angle that you use?
I think most of my books, I have a character, but I put them in a situation, and it's a situation where there is a question. So with A Bird in Winter, it's, who is this woman? Yeah. Why is she? It's a novel about a woman who goes on the run in the UK, and then she goes to Scotland, Norway, Iceland. So immediately there's a question: who is she? Why is she on the run? Who is following her? And to me, there needs to be an element of danger for the character, because there are very good novels about ordinary domestic situations, but I need, in order to get a story going, I need an element of danger in the book.
And it can be seen clearly in all of your novels. You put the stress to the character that make it. So what makes a character compelling to you?
I think we read for two reasons.
Okay.
We read for what we are being told, and we read for what we are not being told.
Okay.
So to me, what intrigues me in a novel is when I know there's something I'm going to find out, but the author's not telling me yet.
I see.
And so that's why we turn the page. We turn the page to find out what we're missing, what have we not realized, what's going on. And when I teach creative writing, I always say, hold things back. Don't tell your reader everything in the early pages, because you've got to give your reader a reason to read on.
So I think that's the art, right? The art lies in that session. how the author like the crafting the story and make the readers still curious until the last page. So when we are talking about your technique, what elements of storytelling, what the thoughts that constructing a well-paced or engaging plot in your process of writing?
I think the process of constructing a plot, it's not just about things happening.
Mm-hmm.
People think that a plot is this happens, that happens, that
sequence,
happens. It's more a question of how do the things that happen change your main character. Because a big event can happen and it's not a plot, it's just an event. So let's say while I'm talking, there is a helicopter crash outside. Okay. Now, if we just sit here going, oh look, a helicopter, and then carry on talking,
I see.
That's not a plot, because a thing has happened, but we're not changed. Whereas, if a helicopter crashes outside and we all rush out and there's a fire and Dieter falls in love with the pilot and rescues him, it's changed her, you know. So in what way do events in a book change your characters, their beliefs, the course of their lives? That is a plot.
So if I might say that you have to activate all of your senses, right? In order to build up the plot and then have the connection with the character. We are talking about the technicalities, Louise, because we are so curious. We need to know your experience about that. So, I'm going to have asking about the strategies of you balancing between the dialogue and also the action and exposition in the story, because I think it's really important for the writer to start with.
Yes, I think when a writer begins a book, they know nothing, you know. So a lot of what is very important is research, because somehow you have to build a book. And at the risk of sounding obvious, books are long. You know, it's like 300 pages. That's 100,000 words. You know, it's a lot of words. So you need character and plot. You also need description. You need to create pictures in your reader's mind about the sights and the sounds and the smells of wherever the novel is set. And I think you also need a very strong sense that you are prepared to spend a long time in this world, because my novels take, on average, 3 years.
3 years for one novel.
So it's like doing a degree in a subject. You know, you've got to really want to spend a long time with that subject. Luckily, I love research and I love travel. So this is why I'm always setting my books abroad. So I have an excuse to travel.
All right. Speaking of research, it's really interesting to read your Blackwater, which the setting was in Indonesia, and also you've described so meticulously described in that novel about the politic issues and also the social situation back in 1965 of Indonesia. I think it's really important to hear from your experiences, because as Indonesian youth and young writers, I think we need to be more sensitive to those issues, and then we need to put our creativity so we can craft the writing, but at the same time we can also be the voice of the changes, or also the positive attitude from the humanity, what Father mentioned earlier. So related to the Blackwater, maybe you can share to us what happened at that time that you come up with the idea of writing and then choosing Indonesia as the setting of the novel.
Well, it's interesting that one Indonesian friend of mine said Indonesia is the biggest, most invisible country for the West. Because people don't know, in the UK, there's so much ignorance about Indonesia. And when I first came to Indonesia 15 years ago, I was ignorant too, and I came here and I discovered this wonderful country, and I thought, how can I have been so ignorant in the past? So I wrote a novel about an outsider who has some Indonesian blood, but he's left Indonesia when he's a small child. He's mixed race. He has a white Dutch mother and a father who has been an officer in the Dutch colonial army. He's born in 1942 under the Japanese occupation. Then he's left when he's 3. So he is also an outsider. I would never write from the point of view of an Indonesian living in India, because those are your stories, and those are your stories to tell, and I hope you tell them. But my character is an outsider who has a small amount of blood and comes and to discover the country. He was born here, but he knows nothing about it.
So and then in one of your interview, also you stated that this character in the Blackwater, the most autobiographical character of yours. Maybe you can share more about that.
Well, the character in Blackwater, he's called Harper, but it's a pseudonym, has this small amount of blood, having been born in Indonesia, but then he's left. He has grown up partly in the US, then partly in the Netherlands, then he's returned to Indonesia. And he is a character who he's not at home anywhere. He's an international character. And also, because he's a small part, mixed race, nobody knows what he is. People think he's Italian. In the US and the UK, they think of him as quite dark, but in Indonesia, he's quite light. So he's like a chameleon. I don't know what the Indonesian would be for that. And also, my background is a very small part mixed race, and you can see I'm British, but quite often people think I'm Italian or Greek or Turkish. So I was very interested in creating a character where nobody knows quite who he is.
Okay. Interesting, Louise. Before I open the questions from the audience, I'm still having some list of questions related to your creative process. You've mentioned earlier that you love research and also you love travel. But then I believe that a writer also have this imagery of touching some sensitive issues in novels. Maybe you have some experience related to that, maybe where you have some sequences of events that you can say that, okay, as a writer I should do this and do not do that, maybe you can say.
I think writers have to be brave.
Okay, bravery.
And they have to travel and research and learn about other countries and other people. But they also have to be aware of their own ignorance, which is why I was going back to say I would not write from the point of view of an Indonesian person. That's an Indonesian person should tell that story. But at the same time, the most important thing as a writer is to be curious, to want to know, to want to know more, to want to know more about different sorts of people, to understand that there's common humanity between different sorts of people. And in a way, being a writer is a great excuse. It's a great excuse for the life you want to lead, because as a writer, you can go out and find out about anything.
Okay, so bravery and curiosity. But Louise, in your point of view, how did you describe the literary world of, if not mentioned, but because you also have participated in Ubud Readers Festival, how would you view the future of writing, of literary studies and also works?
Big question. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that any kind of art that uses the imagination, whether it's books or films or paintings, is where our common humanity is to be found. That's where you find out that somebody who looks very different from you has the same feelings.
It's really important.
And that is the most important message for the world. And the wonderful thing about the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival is writers come from all over the world. As Dita said, there's 200 writers. And I was on a panel with a writer from South Korea who was writing science fiction. I was on a panel with Bernardine Evaristo from Britain, who was the first black woman to win the Booker Prize. I was on panels with Australian and Canadian authors and Indonesian authors. Eka Kurniawan, who I'm sure you've all heard of, is a big, and Leila S. Chudori, who I've met. And in the past, I've interviewed Laxmi Pamuntjak and Goana Muhammad. And, you know, it's a privilege. You talk to other writers and you discover what you have in common.
Interesting, thank you. What comes into my mind when you explain about that? I also remember one of your sharing about Charles Dickens. Dickens works in your works, because I believe our students here, in the context of Indonesia, classic readings are not familiar, and then it's not popular here. But when I realized, then in the level of yours as a international novelist, you still acknowledge the impact of those classic readings. Maybe you can have some underlined statements to ignite the motivation for us to, come on, classic readings is that value, priceless thing.
Yes, well, in the UK, we all grow up with Charles Dickens and a lot of the 19th century novelists. So Charles Dickens, Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters. Yeah. And those authors, although they were writing in the 19th century, there are still so many TV shows, plays, films based on those authors. They've survived 200 years. And Charles Dickens is a good example because he was from a large family, and when he was 14, the family lost a lot of money, and they sent him to work in a factory. Yeah. And there were, rats, and it was what's called a blacking factory, so it's making the polish for boots. And he was having a really miserable time. And he had a big sister, and the family had enough money to educate one child, and she was a very gifted piano player. So she was given piano lessons, and he's 14 years old, and he goes to a concert given by his sister in a huge hall with hundreds of people. And he described later sitting there feeling wretched because everyone was clapping for his sister and thinking, I'm just a boy working in a factory with the rats. I will never have any fame. And now here we are, 200 years later, we are reading his novels. So there's hope for all of us, but you have to create, you have to do the work, you have to write the books.
Yeah, it's interesting because, most writers also share the same thing. The creativity comes from the uncomfortable situation and feeling. And what is yours, Louise?
These are good questions. Well, my family was not from a literary background.
Really?
My father left school when he was 13, and my mother when she was 15. But my father had a real passion for education. He was a self-educated man. He went to night school, he read books, and he really pushed us all to pushy parents. Sorry, everybody.
Everyone.
But they do you a favor.
Asian parents as well.
Yes. My father, one friend said to me once, Louise, you had an Asian dad. Because he was really pushed us. And he was a man who always wanted his children to be more educated than himself. And he really pushed us. So I think that's where it comes from. It was hard at the time. It was not nice. But I think he did me a favor.
Yeah, because we see that you're very productive as a writer. And then you have the persistence and then resilience of writing this. And then all of that, quote, all of that are winning an award. And I think that's, it needs effort, and also that's why I come up with that question. What makes you Louise at you are this day? So thank you for sharing that, Louise. Maybe before I continue I still have some questions, but I will open the chance for the audience to ask some questions to Louise if you have. Okay, one, please.
Okay, thank you for Miss Louise Doughty, and have a good day, all of us. My name is Pascalismo Pelu. You can call me Pascal.
Pascal, okay.
And I'm from the Philosophy Prodi. First, I'm so happy to stand in front of you because I'm also one of your fans. Not all of your book I already read, but one book they title English Murder. It is inspiring me not to be a murderer, but inspiring me improve my curiosity about the plot and the point of view of this book. But the missing of the book that I can't finish the book maybe some reason, because of some reason. This is the first. The second, okay, I'm nervous.
That's okay.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Okay.
So your question is?
Before that, we already heard about your sharing and important information about writing, especially how to express to writing novels. My question is differs from the condition or situation of entity, especially is Flores, where the writing tools and developing talents of writing are still vinit, and addition to the context of the Flores area still fit in writing. The academic and special situation develop and talent for writing privilege media printing to technological media. Whereas the world outside Flores is already more advanced, especially for the big country and big city metropolitan like our Jakarta and like and other and outside of these Flores, they have modern technology. My question is perhaps there is a way to keep the spirit of repression alive, to write and to adjust from the writing situation to the writing paper to the writing technology.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Pascal. Did you follow the question?
Maybe just summarize what Pascal
to summarize,
said.
he's asking about the lack of technology and also lack of the facilities to promote among the young writers in NTT. We see that outside of NTT they have more advanced, but how maybe you have some tips or some steps to do to promote the writing motivation and also desire in NTT.
Yes, it's very difficult because every culture is different and every culture has to find its own way of promoting writers. I was in Libya many years ago teaching Libyan women about writing, and they were explaining to me, I was talking about how important it is to read, and they were saying, as a Libyan woman, I cannot go in a room and read. My whole family will follow me and say, what's wrong? Why do you want to be alone? Are you ill? Because there wasn't the cultural background. So they were writing beautiful poetry. This was their solution, because writing a whole novel is hours and hours and hours on your own. So I think there's always a solution that's appropriate. But certainly the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival has a program for emerging Indonesian writers, which Dita knows more about, where they're working really hard to promote new Indonesian writers. So it's finding those places where work is being done, but it is hard.
Yeah, and I believe Flores Writers Festival has started, and then so you maybe to sum up the Louise answer is, for you to find the place where you belong to be a writer, do not lies on your environment, because I also experienced the same. We need to go outside and find what best suits me to be a writer. You have to start to be a writer. Thank you.
And also
Louise,
the Flores writing program is very important
Yeah.
because it's local to you.
Yeah.
And come and see writers talking, and then you meet other people in the audience who are interested in the same thing as you, and that's the best route, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Any other question? Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much for your chance given to me. My name is Korsinus Budiman, and I am philosophy student. First of all, I give you thanks for your share about your journey to become the writers or novelists. Sometimes become a writers or readers is not popular in our society, and I think in our province also, and especially in our province.
Yeah.
And second, every writers always use the imagination capability, and I think become a writers is not easy, as well as that can imagine, but need a patient, need a time to think all the problem around us. So I can conclude that as writers, we must work to the humanity project to respond the many problems on the past, present, and future. So why Miss Louise can choose to become novelist to respond the problems or many things that you see in your life? I think that's all. Thank you.
Interesting.
Interesting. Why did I choose? That's a very interesting question. Well, I like spending a lot of time alone. And I think if you're a writer, and Pascal may feel this too, I think you are somebody who likes to be a little bit outside sort of normal society. Writers are often the people who stand on the edge of a party and watch what's going on. Not the people having lots of fun at the party, they're the people observing. And if I had to isolate one characteristic of all the writers that I know, there is something about them that makes them feel like they're an outsider. And sometimes it's obvious, maybe it's their sexuality, or maybe it's a skin color, and sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes it's just a feeling inside. I'm not somebody who is always joining in. I'm somebody who's standing outside, observing. Where that comes from, I don't know.
So, everyone has the chance to dig in, to find out, am I an outsider? But what you shared is interesting, guys. Enjoying the time alone can be a starting point of be a good writer, right? Okay, maybe we still have one question. Okay, wait this, yes. You please first, yeah. Okay, I will translate it later. Mike.
Cek. Perkenalkan, saya Nandito dari Universitas Nusa Nipa jurusan Ilmu Komunikasi Peminatan Jurnalistik.
Okay.
Suatu kehormatan bisa berdiri di hadapan Madam Louise. Kebetulan saya mengenal Madam Louise dari karyanya yang berjudul Apple Trials, tapi saya tidak membacanya. Saya hanya mengetahui dari seriesnya yang tayang di BBC. Dari 3 episode, saya hanya menonton 1 saja. Nah, pertanyaan saya adalah, sebagai seorang penulis yang punya banyak karya, apakah ada kendala yang dihadapi oleh Madam Louise selama menulis seperti writer block, dan kira-kira tips dan trik apa saja yang bisa Madam Louise lakukan agar kembali semangat dalam menulis? Thank you.
Okay, so the question is, he watched the apple tree yard in BBC only, and then his question is there any difficulties or obstacles that you as a writer facing in the through process of being persistent in writing?
Yes, I suppose the point about television adaptation is I don't write the script for the television adaptation, so I give that to somebody else who adapts the novels. So as a novelist, when you have a book on film or TV, you take your baby and you hand it over. And you just accept that because it's a different medium. So you can't have control of it. But obviously your book still exists as the book that you wrote, and people will watch a TV program and they'll go and buy the book. So I don't think it's a problem if the television or film is very different from your book. It still exists. And in fact, I feel very grateful for the television industry because it has brought me to a whole new audience. You know, in the UK, you hope for a few thousand sales, but obviously millions of people watch television all over the world. So I think you just have to be grateful that it's bringing your book to a new audience.
Okay, so it takes also courage and bravery to say that this is my part and this is not my part. Thank you. It's interesting. Oh, do you still have question? Sorry, Max, 2 more. Father Freddy. Okay, so still have 3. Max, and then the final Father Freddy.
Okay, thanks for the time. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I just have one question. I just want to ask about how the author or the writer can easily lead the reader's emotion. Because I never try to write a novel, but I like to reading novel. When we read novel, the stories, we will find people feel really happy in one hand, and in another hand, so they can very sad, and even they can cry, and that's interesting for me. And I just want to know how the writer or the author put the plot. Was the writer or the author already think the whole plan or the plot of the story, or
So spontaneous.
there is so many
Spontaneous.
yeah, spontaneous or
So do you plan to put up the emotion to lead the emotions of your reader, or it is spontaneous, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And then the second
Second question.
once more. And the second, in Flores, we know that become a writer, that's a minority, not a majority.
I think it's
Then when we want to become a writer, that is, we want to fight melawan the majority atmosphere. That's difficult for me. And I like to read Paulo Coelho book, and I found that become a writer means the writer must have wide knowledge.
yes, she is.
And now I know from Miss Louise that become a writer, not only we must have wide knowledge, but we can activate our sense.
Okay,
That's. Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, please.
Thank you. Well, to take the first part, how do you create emotion in the reader? It's very, very hard to know how your reader will feel. You can't really predict it, because as a writer, all you can do is write a scene knowing how you feel. But a writer can never read their own work for the first time, because the writer has been over it again and again, changing it, editing it. So you just have no idea. I think the important thing is that you feel it when you're writing. So if it's a sad scene, it makes you sad too. If it's a happy scene, it makes you happy. That's all you can do, because you've no way of knowing what the reader will think. You hope they won't be bored. That's the only thing. You hope they'll keep reading. In terms of plotting and planning, I don't. I just throw myself in. Some writers do. A lot of writers plot the story in advance. Before they write anything, they write out a very detailed summary. I don't. For me, the great joy of writing is discovering what I'm writing as I'm writing it. So I wrote the first scene of A Bird in Winter, and then I followed that woman out of the office block. I followed her as she went to the station. I did the journey myself. I went to Birmingham, where it's set, and I went on the run. I went up to Scotland and on trains and buses and ferries, and I thought, okay, if I'm this woman, how do I feel? That's how I wrote it.
So in my imagination, that while you're writing, you also being the character in the real life. So it's really important to travel, guys.
Yes.
You want to go travel and experience.
Yes.
Thank you, Louise. It's interesting. The next can hear from Marino. And then the last one will be the father. Okay. You can go directly to the question.
First of all, I would like to thank you to Louise Doughty with your beautiful experiences. Actually, my father also started making a book. It was his third years making a book. He always find calm place to do. I was wondering why he had to do that. For me, living alone for many hours or maybe a day in one place alone, in facing my laptop or my book, is boring. But after I've heard your explanations, your experience, I already know why. Thank you for that. My question is, being a writer is not easy. You know, sometimes being a writer also feel a pain. But what make you always being in that situations? What makes you feel that feel the pain of being a writer, you start to fall in love in it? I just wondering why. That's all.
Thank you, Marino.
That's a really tricky question.
Because you keep doing that.
It is boring sometimes. And there are times when you sit at the computer and you think, I don't have a single thought in my head. And you can sit there and your fingers, and then you make another coffee and that doesn't help. And but that's part of the deal. It's what you have to do. You have to show up at your desk to write a novel. And the moments when you're typing are a tiny, tiny percentage. There's lots of staring out of the window, drinking more coffee, walking around the room. You just need to let thoughts grow slowly, like a tree. You plant the little seed.
I see.
And be patient. Patience is really important, I think.
That's why being alone is really important, because you have to have the space. Thank you, Liz. Father Freddy. Okay. Put it again. Pakai bahasa. Kasih nyala lagi, Pak. Oke.
Menulis novel memang tidak gampang. Dulu saya menulis novel Namaku Eleosa, wanita tegar merawat lara. Butuh waktu 6 bulan. Kemudian 2 tahun terakhir saya menulis novel Luka, ingatan yang hampir lupa. Butuh waktu 8 bulan. Karena memang tidak gampang menulis novel. Saya harus menempatkan diri pada posisi sebagai wanita. Nah, setiap saya menulis novel atau karya-karya sastra, saya memiliki ciri khas saya, bahasa saya, kosakata saya yang beda dengan orang lain. Karena itu ciri pembeda karya-karya sastra saya. Pertanyaan saya untuk Mrs. Louise, apakah menulis novel untuk mensublimasikan hasrat dalam diri itu boleh dikatakan novel yang cengeng? Karena bagi saya, sublimasi diri adalah cara melampiaskan hasrat primitif dalam tubuh saya ke dalam sebuah wadah yang disebut sastra. Saya bisa mengekspresikan hasrat primitif saya pertama-tama, misalnya tentang seks. Saya tidak bisa mengekspresikannya kepada perempuan sebagai wadah, tetapi saya mengekspresikannya pada novel sebagai wadah pertama dan terakhir. Pertanyaan saya sekali lagi, menulis novel hanya karena sublimasi diri, apakah novel yang cengeng? Sekian dan terima kasih.
Thank you, Father Freddy. So he started with share that for him, writing a novel is not an easy project. He wrote some novels and it takes like 6 to 8 months. And then he noticed that he put his uniqueness in every novel that he wrote. But his question is, do you consider writing novel sometimes could be a spoiled or sometimes could be a sassy? But because in his point of view, writing novel for him is to sublimize, to represent what he feels about something that he cannot be represented in any other form rather than in novel or in literary works. What is in your opinion?
I think that's absolutely right. I think when we write a novel, we do it because we cannot say what we want to say in any other way. There is something unique about writing a novel because you create a whole world and you invent all the characters, you make them do what you want them to do. And also, I think you're absolutely right to say you put something of yourself in each book. You know, each book is a private way. And quite often, the bit of yourself that you put in a book, it's not obvious to the reader. If you write a memoir, you are just writing, this is what I thought, this is what happened. But when you write a novel, you get to disguise yourself. And that's one of the wonderful things about it. You can be whoever you want to be, and you are in disguise.
You're in disguise, Father. Thank you. Actually, it relates because before I go to the next question, it leads to my next question, Louise, about the genre of your novels. How would you describe the genre of your novels?
That's another really hard question. I'll have to answer with reference to the UK publishing scene. Because in the UK, publishing books, it's a commercial business.
Okay.
You know, publishers are commercial companies that have to make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So what this means is they have to put books in categories. And if you think about it, you go to the supermarket, you know if you want fruit or bread.
Yeah.
and all the fruit is in one place.
Yeah.
And all the bread is one place. It's not that they put, fruit
Here
next
and
to a
there.
loaf of bread next to it, things are in categories.
Categorized, yeah.
And it's the same with books in the commercial publishing in the UK. So I've written lots of different sorts of books.
Okay.
I wrote 3 contemporary novels. I wrote 2 historical novels, one set during the Second World War in Europe, one in 19th century England. And then with my 6th novel, I started writing books that they call thrillers.
Yeah, thrillers. Yeah.
And I don't know if they're thrillers or not, but my publisher has to sell them to the public. And they have to put a package on them saying, this is what sort of book it is. To me, it's not my business.
Okay.
My business is to tell the story I want to tell to the best of my ability. And it's my publisher's job to put the wrapping on it and put it on the shelf. And I leave that bit to them. I heard a writer friend recently give a very good description of, because sometimes people confuse thrillers with crime novels. And she said crime novels are about something that's already happened. Thrillers are about something that's going to happen. Yeah, so it's good. But I don't care what people call me as long as they read me. I don't care.
That's interesting because before today, I think we believe that a writer has that pressure to write certain genre based on the needs of the readers. But today you share with us that it's not your business and this is.
Yes, although I'm lucky because I think my publisher is very good about letting me do whatever I want. But you are right, a lot of writers, particularly if they're very successful, you would think that a successful writer has more power, but no, because you're making people money. So you have less power because they want you to do the same book again and again and again because they're making money out of you. So I'm just very lucky that my publisher, which is quite a literary house, Faber and Faber, it's a very old publisher, very established. They treat me well. They just let me go. But most writers, you're right, they are under pressure.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Oh, iya masih ada, boleh, masih. Pater juga masih, dan kakak. Oke, silakan. Mic-nya tolong tadi dari, yes.
Check.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
At the first time, I have to say, nice to meet you, Louise. I also have to say that I have found my partner writer. We have like a same tradition, self-tradition. When we write something and we drink coffee, I also do that.
The same thing.
Do the same.
Coffee mate.
Okay. To be a good or success writer, of course, that it's very difficult. We must have like a self-tradition and also patient, commitment, and so on. I want to know from Louise, when you still on practicing or a beginner writer, what the goal you want to get from your writing? And now as a famous writer, everything that you, with your writing, you want to change the world by your side. Thanks.
Another, yes, please.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if I could change the world?
But
I would love that.
But you are, I think.
Okay, when I am the queen, everyone will be nice to each other. That's it. I think writers do want to change the world in a way because they create a world. You know, they invent, and there's a reason why we invent a world. I suppose we're not happy with the world as it is. Yeah. And in our world, we can make things as we want them to be. Yeah. And I think it's a huge privilege to be a writer. Every morning I wake up and I'm grateful to be a writer. So, yes, good question. That's your answer. I would like to change the world.
Thank you, Louise. It's really touching, I think. Father.
So thank you for the second time. Yeah, I was very touched in your sharing. At the beginning, you said, when I was small, living in a small town. I think it is important to speak about the power of the small things. And now you are very well known and inspire the world, starting from the small. So could you share to us the power of the small things in your life and in your novel? Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, thank you, Father. I think the best way to do that is to tell a short story about when I was young. I used to work in a school for very, very severely disabled children. Children who could not use their arms or legs, children who couldn't feed themselves. And the staff were, I volunteered there, but the staff who worked there all the time were, of course, amazing. And it would take them 3 years to teach a child to lift a spoon to their mouth. And then the child might have an epileptic fit and lose all that learning, and they would start again to spend 3 years to teach a child. And the head teacher showed me around when I arrived. And she showed me a room where there was a woman sitting sewing the clothes that the children wore. And she was also a volunteer. And the head teacher said, when we came out, that woman never sees the children, but my school could not function without her, because the children were disabled and they dirtied their clothes, they tore their clothes, and it's very expensive to buy new clothes for children. And that woman was a really good, in English we say seamstress, but I don't know what the English one. She couldn't look after the children herself, but she came and she volunteered at the school, and she said, so in the whole school, that person was very small. She was a volunteer, she never even saw the children, but the head teacher said, my school could not function without her. So my response is, you're absolutely right, that all of us in this room say to ourselves, I can't change the world, I can't do everything, but I can make my small contribution. And sometimes when you look at all the need in the world, you think, where do I begin? There's so much wrong, where do I start? But I think it's the wrong question. The question is, what am I good at? And how can I make that contribution, my small contribution? So thank you for bringing us back to that point.
So powerful. Thank you, Louise. I believe we still have little time for one question. Okay, two. Norman and Lolik.
Thanks for the chance given to me. My name is Norman, or Michael, you can call. Michael. Yeah, Michael. I do have one question, but it is about visualization. I mean, how we characterize our character. I do read a lot of classical books from Agatha Christie or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It just blows my mind. I mean, how Agatha Christie describe or characterize a person in a very unique way in his crime events, or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle on how himself put him as a second point of view as Dr. Watson, and how he described or just make us imagine on what Sherlock Holmes do. It just blew my mind, and I just started read your books, Bird in Winter, and it's just a early start. I mean, from the start, I see that how great your visualization is, and I just want to know what is the secret. I mean, it might be not just like imagination or visualization. It might, because it takes like a lot of sense on how you sense something or how you see something in a very different point of view. I just really want to know what is your secret on how you can imagine something, so then your writers can really make like an exact image on that event. Just that.
Is that? Thank you, Nora.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's such a tricky question. What is my secret?
Do you have a secret?
No, I think the answer is there is no secret.
Yeah.
I think hard work is the secret. Just hours and hours and hours of getting it right.
Yeah.
Being at your desk, and quite often writing a lot that you throw away because it's not good enough. I think that's the only secret, and practice. Doing it again and again and again. If you want to learn an instrument, you practice again and again. If you want to be a dancer, you practice. It's the same with being a novelist. It's practice. That's the secret. The nearest I can get to a secret.
Persistence, yeah. Thank you, Louise. Lolik, please. And probably this is the last question, yeah. Sorry, guys.
Okay, thank you. Louise, how do you start your first sentence in your book? Because I think in this era it's important one, especially if you want to gain the reader who is not so settled with reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Lolik.
That's a good question too. For me, the first sentence is simple and short for exactly the reason you said. I want the reader to carry on. And I think if you have a very long, complicated first sentence, you're saying to your reader, you know, this is going to be hard work. But when you keep it short and simple, you are inviting your reader in. You're saying, take me by the hand and come with me on this journey. You know, one of my favorite opening sentences from literature is very simple, and it's just 3 words. And it's the opening sentence of Moby Dick, which is a fat novel.
Really?
It's big, by Herman Melville, an American writer. And it's about a man and his obsession with a whale. You know, it goes on for hundreds of pages. But the first sentence of Moby Dick is, call me Ishmael, full stop. And what is he saying with that sentence? He's saying, here I am, this is my name, come with me on this journey. And that's why I think it's such a good opening sentence. So yeah, short is my...
Thank you, Louise. Can we give applause to all the incredible answers? Before we come to the closing part, maybe the most important question, Louise, what is your most valuable advice for aspiring writers who want to master the art of writing?
Well, we've covered a lot of it. Thanks to their brilliant questions. I think believe in yourself, because that's the beginning. You know, believe in your ability and ambition, and never let anybody else make you feel small, because we are all mighty and strong. So believe in your strength and your ability.
Very powerful. Thank you, Louise. So I think we are coming to the end of the session. We thank you for your sharing, and also lots of talk have been happening around, and I hope everyone can get some stronger motivation to start learning by, learning through, and also learning with writing. Thank you so much, Louise.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Oh yeah. Before we take the photograph, I believe we have something to give to Louis. Thank you. Saya minta kesediaan Pater, bisa beri. Kak Dita silakan. And also to Kak Dita from UWRF. Our traditional woven from Maumere. Oke, thank you. Langsung foto bersama saja ya, Kakak, sebelum top.